Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today's video is just on a bunch of little things. Kind of got spread out between all my things I needed to get done. Just kind of was waiting on some parts, waiting for paint to dry, just kind of things like that that take a little bit of time. But today I got the front axle all painted and mostly put back together. All I gotta do is kind of do the knuckles and everything else. I got the hydro steering mounted. I got the orbital mounted. I got the linkages to the orbital done. Throttle cable hooked up. Today, it'll just be kind of like a update on what the project stands as of right now, which is basically 90% done on the front axle. Air bumps are done. The bump stop pads on the axles are done. Hydro is all mounted. Everything's fully welded, painted, and just going through right now, just kind of cleaning everything up, getting everything ready to go, painted. It was all pretty nasty before. So on this episode, you'll just see a bunch of random stuff, but it's starting to actually look like a finished vehicle now. So let's get to it. I will not waste any time. All right, for the bump stops, this is the can that will be welded somewhere in that range. I'm gonna make a little pad that probably comes off the lower control arm, kind of ties into the truss, and have a nice little landing pad right there. So I figure somewhere in the range of here. But the bump stop itself will be somewhere kind of like this. And right there, I'm about ½ inch or so of clearance from the arm hitting the frame. And then also I ordered a radiator, and it's not going to sit any further lower than the lower of the frame. So it's going to be a tight package, but I think it will be fine. So I'm going to go ahead and get these pieces welded in. I did a beveled edge on anything that is going to be either made into a corner or onto the frame. It's going to be on the bottom like so. So I'll have a beveled edge on that inside frame, so it's not just welded onto a flat surface. You kind of can see that shadow. And then same thing on these corners here for when these pieces right here line up. So I'll have a bevel corner on the bottom there, one on the inside frame there, and then this is just left flat because of the open void from that can it's gonna leave, which doesn't need to be beveled anyways. So that kind of gives you a visualization of how that looks there. So I tried to get a little bit of a bevel in there, but it'll fill in just nice. And then I'll get a weld on the inside also before I put the cap on. So that kind of at least shows more what those pieces are. Pretty basic, but strong and simple.
A few moments later.
All right, there's one made. I got a weld on the inside before I put that can on all sides. So that thing's pretty stout. And then I went ahead and made a Sharpie mark where I'm gonna have the pad start at, and then I'll just kind of do a little something to make that strong enough. But overall, that should be okay. So one more to go. Made some little bump stop little templates. I kind of want to do something a little bit more beefy than what I did in the back. But basically it's going to sit something like that where it overlaps the bottom of the bracket there, and it kind of wraps around the tube. And then eventually I can tie in the shock mount to the truss I made, so that'll kind of bridge that gap. And these should mirror, so I'm gonna do the same on this side too. And go ahead and tie it into the truss, make a little landing pad on top. Take a little bit longer, but I think it'll look kind of custom. So, and I got inspiration from a couple buddies I know, so that's the gist. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these cut out. Might take a while. This is my porta-band and grinder, but it's the tools I have, so it works. The basic idea, made it so I can get on the inside, a weld all the way inside there on both sides, and just a little something round on the top, nothing really crazy. At least that way it's kind of connected to the lower and the truss, and then I'll make a little piece to connect that shock tab on the front side and kind of plate that off, kind of box it in. But overall, I think it turned out kind of cool. So it takes a long time when you're just using a grinder, but go ahead and get this welded in, and then I'll go and get the front piece put on after that, since I can kind of get it solid where it's going to go, and then I'll make a piece to cap the front. But overall, I think it looks pretty good. Well, got this side all ready to get welded in. Everything except for the front. Really fucked up my tracing pattern. One from the other side apparently was not the same for this side, so a little bit of a gap fillage over there. But gonna go ahead, get this welded in. Okay, so I have a little bit of a side mission. I'm going to go ahead and get the hydro steering orbital mounted. I kind of got a game plan now that I know where my air bumps are located, and I ordered some more parts, some 36 spline 3/4 inch DD shaft and like one U joint. I'm just gonna kind of end up reusing kind of the stock piece that I have. I'm not sure if this is Samurai or not, but it's basically going to slide right over this old shaft here, and I'll cut this section off, and I have another same thing as what this is, and then that'll just stub into this little section here with a clamp, and then I'll just go to a U joint that goes to the orbital itself. So that was pretty simple. And then once that's all mounted, I'm going to go ahead and get the hydro steering ram, kind of get that started mounted. I might get everything bolted in there and just see kind of where everything's at now that I kind of know where my radiator is going to sit. So I'm going to go ahead and get this finished welded up, and I know everything will fit because it's going to be a pretty easy run, just one single U joint. So I'm going to go ahead and get this welded in and see what's next, but probably put the ram on after that and then just go from there. So coming together. All right, there it is. Probably way overkill since the pump really doesn't have that much stress on it, but I went ahead and added that bottom piece just so it can kind of sit on something, and then obviously double gusseted on this side, top and bottom weld. Good to go. Was on a good run there, and then I had a mishap where I ran out of wire, and so I got a different consistency, but I was like, man, of course I ran out of wire on one of my better welds. This side turned out pretty good. My downhills are garbage, and this down here looks like trash too, but luckily you don't really see any of that.
A few moments later.
So some of the steering parts came. The only thing that's missing is I have a little coupler that's gonna basically, when this thing gets cut in half, that this will be able to slide into a fitting and clamp down. This side will be able to slide into a fitting and clamp down. And then this can go back into the factory. Smaller spline count than what this is. I think this is a 3/4 36 spline, and this, I'm not exactly sure, I never counted, but it's not the same. So this is gonna be tight. I don't know if I have enough angle. It doesn't seem, it kind of seems like a little bit of binding in a couple spots. So I might have to add another U-joint or something. I'm just gonna get it and try and do it with what I got, but we'll see. I'm waiting on that coupler. It's being shipped from somewhere else. So that will be addressed when that shows up. But in the meantime, I kind of got started on getting the axle back kind of where it's supposed to go. And then I got my hydro steering parts I'm kind of starting to get fitted. So just kind of got everything roughly set on there. Nothing's welded yet, but my thinking was to kind of keep this as high clearance as possible. I wanted to wait and cut these to figure out how far in and out I want it to be. And I kind of came up with an idea that I'm just going to my intention is maybe have the bar mount right around this height here, and it's gonna come around and shoot right through the truss basically, and just be right above the center line of the pumpkin, well actually quite a bit higher. So my thinking is I'm gonna drill a hole saw on both sides of the truss, and I'm gonna run that all the way through, and then I can weld that, and then I can cap weld that other side too, and plug the open end tube up. And then that way I can kind of play with the depth, you know, probably give or take an inch or two, depending on how much tube is on that piece that's provided. But I figured that would give enough strength for going through that truss. And then also they supply a little mid-center bar that I might drill out for also, but I might just go ahead and just do a surface weld on that, and then maybe some gussets or something. But that will at least give me some playing room for the depth of that ram. And then also I don't want to be any higher than the top of these brackets here, because I want to keep that bottom of my frame rail line as flush with anything coming up through that point, so I don't mess with my radiator. So that's what I'm gonna get working on. I'll get some holes drilled out of that truss, and then I'll start kind of getting that thing tack welded, and I can start playing with the depth of it. This fits. Sort of where it's gonna go. It's way too far out. Looks tight. Okay, it is holes drilled both sides. You can kind of see the tube coming off the back sides there, going all the way through the truss. And so this is kind of what I've come up with. As you can kind of tell, the highest point of the ram here is just a hair lower than the upper link mount, which is good. Leaves some room for the fittings, but it's kind of lined up like right at that angle, kind of frame center section there. I think I'm gonna go ahead and get that tube welded in. And then I haven't really totally decided if I want this tilted back all the way, which probably I should. And then just obviously kind of center it up somewhere around there. But all those bolts are still accessible, even the one behind there. And then I could even get a little bit of a weld on the pumpkin itself. It's kind of good center support. I'm gonna go ahead and get that welded in, but that I think will work out pretty good. So here's basically what I came up with. I used my stock tie rod bar, and then I just went ahead and got its overall dimension, center eye hoop, and then I went ahead and just measured my center line of the whole rack system itself, and then went ahead and got these kind of snugged down. It's ran with a pretty big hex head recessed bolt. So I went ahead and put those in, and then came up with a number after I got a little bit of room for some adjustment in and out. I doubt I'll use anything more than 1/4 inch. It's pretty close to the stock length already. Went ahead, cut the provided tube, beveled the edges, and drilled a little bung hole. That's funny. And on all 4 sides, so there's gonna be 2 on each side, and that should lock it in pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and get those welded in, and then I can bolt this piece back in. I can actually bolt the whole thing together. bucket on it. Okay, arms are welded up. I went ahead and pulled the axle out of the rig. I got basically everything I needed. So the last time it's gonna go in will be the last time it goes in. So this is all I have left. I'm just gonna go ahead and throw that one little tube that they provide in the center here, just back to the truss there. And then I got one more faceplate to make for the bump. I already did the other side. So, and then I'm gonna go ahead and take the whole assembly off and get that all cleaned up. Probably might need to get some new rotors and calipers while I'm out of this whole thing, since it's all gonna be kind of brand new. And I'll go through everything, make sure it's all greased up and good. And want to pull the third member out because I've got a little bit of a leak. So just some maintenance stuff here. Nothing out of the ordinary, but want to make it all refreshed since the last time it'll go in. And then I also have to drill out the arms. I'm probably gonna cut this off since I don't want this left over. And then I'll drill out this hole for a 3/4 size, which is what I need. So, and then yeah. And then I can go ahead and get it painted and put the new gasket seals on that I have, the new wiper arms. And then it'll be good to go back under the rig for the last final time and hook up the hydro steering and all the linkages for once and for all. And then last thing I gotta do here is make the hoops for the shocks to mount to, and then the front suspension's done. So pretty sweet. Just test fitting my new tires for the truck. Figure it needed a little bit of an upgrade, so I'm gonna go ahead and throw these little dinky 40s on there. That should look pretty good. Just got to maybe do a little bit of trimming, like maybe just like the bottom corner, you know. It's kind of like it's not really a round fender opening, so I don't know. I think that'll look pretty good. Well, that pretty much wraps up so far's progress. My buddy came over, helped me get the knuckles all assembled. So that's all pretty much done. Kind of got the shock set in there, roughly about the angle it's gonna go. I know it'll somewhat work in that range. So having something I can run a bar right through here and back, and then maybe do like a hoop bar to the other side to kind of connect those together. I think that's gonna work. I'm just gonna wait on some new brakes. Since I'm this far, I might as well put new brakes on. And what's odd about this, about the parts that I have, is that you'll notice that these, this style right here is actually a press fit type stud. Where on the backside, you know, that gets pressed through into a one-piece deal. And this one, for some reason, is a bolt-in style. And as you can see, it bolts into that spot right there. And then the studs are, I would imagine those ones are pressed into that hub, or whatever you'd want to call this piece. So kind of strange. I don't know why that's the way that is, but it works the way it is. So I'm just gonna roll with it, and then wait on my new rotors, and then I'll go ahead and bolt that one on, or I'll bolt this one on, and then I'll press that one on. So that shouldn't be too big of a deal. And then I'm gonna go ahead and put new seals on that as well. Bearings seem to be in good shape, so I'm just gonna go ahead and reuse those. And then 2 new calipers, brake pads, and that will wrap up assembling the front of the axle. So, and then after that, just get those damn shocks mounted, and this thing is ready to be sitting on its own weight. Then I can do the back. Went ahead and made some little DIY alignment check bars. So I'm gonna be able to measure from angle iron to angle iron from the front and back and try and get it within a certain, I'm gonna try and shoot for like an 1/8 inch toe in or something like that. I think that's the typical, or a 1/16. At least have just a little bit of toe in. Does it matter on a wheeler? Probably not, but I will be on a highway here and there. So I wanna kinda make sure it's within a good tolerance, and plus then I know kinda it's straight at some point. So I'm gonna go ahead and start measuring for front to back and play with it a little bit and see what we end up with. One thing, I wanna make sure I can turn this all together, which is good. I had to measure, let's say measure out here somewhere, like 52 7/8. At 55 3/8. I don't want 3-inch toe in. Hopefully I made those fucking arms long enough. So let me start spreading this out. I'm at 54 3/16. Mark, I'm at 54 1/4. So that's actually exactly right where I want to be. So let me double check. I got 54 1/4. Somewhere right there. 54 3/16. So I'm gonna go ahead and just shrink it up a little bit on the inside. Here comes some more rain. I'm just gonna go ahead and come in, make like an 1/8 inch toe in and call it a day. 12 7/8 center to center. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten down these jam nuts since I like where it's at. Give a once over on the big boys there. And that thing should be pretty straight. Oh yeah. Okay, this side's all buttoned up. I went ahead and used RTV for the spindle gasket. All the hydraulic stuff is tightened down. And then went ahead, put a new seal and packed that bearing pretty good. That should do just fine. And I went ahead and got my new rotors in. So I am going to get that all buttoned up. I got one side already done. Went together pretty smoothly. New caliper from a 1976 or something like that, a 1976 FJ60. So that's the V6 double piston caliper upgrade, which I was running before. So I just sold my calipers with my old front end, so I got some new ones. Drive flanges, everything's all good to go. Getting closer than literally just the shocks, and this whole front end is done. So I'm liking how it's turned out so far. This shit's way too nice for me. All my shit's always usually like half broken or I half-assed it, but not this time. Not this time. All right, that's basically a wrap. Got both sides done. I need to go get a couple bolts for the caliper. I only have 2 because this side did not come with a caliper. So, but that is the finished product right there. Very happy with how it turned out. Basically, I'm just gonna go through once over, double check everything that's tight. And after that, I will get the air shocks mounted. I'll have a buddy of mine, I'll have to borrow his tube bender, which shouldn't be too big of a deal. Just get something real quick, get some tabs made. I'll just make them myself, I think. My plan is to kind of make maybe 2 or 3 different like elevation points for it to mount to. So I'll kind of do like some sort of bracket that'll wrap on that tube, and then just have 3 different location mounts, maybe like a inch apart or something, like 3/4 of an inch apart, just in case if I need to adjust more down travel or up travel or whatever. So just having that option, since I might as well be in the process of making them, might as well make something where I can adjust it a little bit more. And then that'll wrap up the front end, and then the rear end will be pretty easy. I just got to copy the mount locations that I had before. And then after that, I can go ahead and put that one back in and then get some measurements for some drive shafts, and the drivetrain will be done. I still have to take off the oil pan and probably just do a little notch. I was thinking about using a hammer or something to see if I can get that thing to move a little bit, but I think it'll be fine if I just take it off, do like a little slice cut. I don't really want to buy the rear sump kit, because it's like 350 bucks, and I can use that money for other things in my opinion. So it's easy to throw a couple $100 here and there, like buy new, but if you can do without or do it yourself, I would much rather do it like that if I can. So that will take care of that. And then yeah, get the drive shafts in, and it will be technically a roller, which is a huge milestone. So once that's all done, my plan is to do like the brake lines. I'll probably do the brake lines after that, get my battery mounted. I think that'll be mostly everything that I'm gonna do by myself. And then I think what I'm gonna do is load it up on my trailer and drag it over to my buddy Joey's house, because he's done several 3/4 swaps and he knows the wiring color and the harness and what they do. So all he has to do is basically locate what like the starter wire is on the Samurai harness, what the alternator wire is, what the ignition on all the time power is, just little things like that that can get the motor actually running. And then once it's actually running, you know, work on putting an intake in, get an exhaust made. I'm debating doing a DIY exhaust kit. I'm also just debating on dropping it off to somebody and have them do it at the same time. So we'll see. But that way I can kind of free up, because I got some projects around the house I got to take care of. And I just don't want this to soak up all my time of me chasing down wires, when I can just kind of have someone who can call me over to his house and I can go over there and help him or watch or learn about what he's doing. So that'll be a lot more simpler for me. Plus I know it will actually run. I won't have to worry about if it's not going to run or if I got the wire in the wrong spot, which I know would happen. That's the basic game plan. I mean, there's quite a bit of stuff I got done on this list of things to do on the front. So it's kind of a long video, but it was a bunch of little things that took a lot of time. So I'm done rambling. Have a good one, everybody. Thanks for watching again. If you're sticking with me, thank you. If you want to keep watching, I'm not doing anything all that fancy, but if you can kind of get some ideas for my build, then just have at it. That's the whole thing. So have a good one. Dogs are happy. It's nice and sunny today. We'll take it easy and see you next time.